The demon lord was exploiting the city, and the guards there mentioned that it was the end of the world and wondered if the world was going to be destroyed by the demon lord alone. The other man denied, stating that they still had hope for them all. While pointing at a boy, he explained that he was a hero from another world, Takayama Arudo. While pointing, Takayama asked if they were going to take him down, and the man agreed and mentioned that he was the demon lord. Takayama smiled and stated that he would take him down as quickly as he could, and the others were astonished and retorted that he would have to train and gain experience before he could defeat the demon lord. But Takayama kept moving, and others were stunned while seeing him close to the demon lord. Takayama waved at the demon, and the annoyed demon called him a foolish boy and asked if he didn't know who he was. Instantly, Takayama punched him, and the demon was down. Stunned, people wondered if it was over, and Takayama had numerous adventures in another world, and he had grown too, but he was not intelligent. This is a story of a boy named Takayama Arudo, who lived in Japan. In the last year of the Heisei era, Takayama was in the house with his sister, and she mentioned that she was home and added that he was home in the morning. She explained that he had been wandering around again for days while she had been away. The computer mentioned that it was 6:45 a.m., and that day was a horoscope, and Takayama told his sister that he had been in another world, and his sister winked and asked if he did have a better excuse. She asked for a break as she has been busy with her work, and Takayama agreed. He contemplated that it was hard to get people to believe in another world, and she went while telling him that he knew what their mom and dad used to tell them not to lie, and Takayama stated he knew, and she sighed that she had got to go to work and suggested him to lock up the door, as last time he left the door unlocked and he disappeared for 2 weeks. Takayama pondered that transferring to another world could be so sudden, and mentioned that he would be careful and promised. He thought that he should go to school once in a while, and he actually went to school, where other students were astonished to see him as it was unusual. Takayama contemplated that he didn't really attend very much, and wondered if he did have enough credits. While he entered, Ishikawa stopped him and asked if he realized that they all were supposed to be there during attendance week, and it had been 23 days in class already, and he hadn't made any of them. But suddenly Sumida started beating him, and Takayama asked him to stop while pondering that in another world, he was the strongest, but in the real world, he was ugly. Ishikawa asked if he was okay, and Takayama smiled and agreed. Sumida asked if it wasn't right as it was just a game, and another boy stated that then he would take a shot as well. But Ishikawa covered Takayama while telling them to stop, and mentioned that it was just bullying. And boys told her that they knew that she likes Takayama, and Takayama was hiding behind her while thinking that he was sorry and wanted to escape to another world, and she denied while mentioning that as part of student council. But unexpectedly light shines, and Takayama was astonished while seeing the pattern, and the other students were perplexed to see the pattern. While Takayama was contemplating that if he didn't get out of there soon, he would be forced to drag everyone down with him, and he jumped through the window, but till then everyone with him was dragged to another world. After some time, Takayama looked at his hand and stated that there was no doubt that it was another world. He stated that he didn't want to bother with school and thought that he would just take it easy in another world. He looked aside and found Ishikawa lying, pondering if he dragged her into another world and called it his fault, as it happened because of him. He kept pondering about other students making fun of him and calling him worse, mentioning that it was Takayama's cause and stressed that it was not even a place to be, but a hellhole. He thought about doing something about that and looked inside the box, stating that he thought that he had a good one in there somewhere. He picked disguise skill and activated it after setting, getting a warning. In a hurry, he didn't care about it, deciding to disguise himself as a merchant unfit for combat so that his strength in another world wasn't revealed, and no one would know that it was him. After that, he was out of that way. He decided to wake up Ishikawa. He woke her up by shaking her, pondering that he could see her panties. Instantly, she realized and covered it up while asking if he saw them, and he denied, starting to fill his mouth with grass while explaining that he was just looking at the grass to see if he could eat it. Irritated, Ishikawa screamed and cussed him that he got good poisoning. Then, she asked where they were, and he denied. She replied that she had never seen an animal like that before, picking up the rabbit, but the animal growled, and in fear, she ran off. Takayama screamed behind her, mentioning that it wasn't safe, and he ran behind, thinking that it couldn't be helped. Suddenly, Ishikawa got trapped by a monster, and she screamed for help. He asked her to wait for him, adding that he was going to get her out of there. He extended his hand to cast Thunderbolt to break through the soul, but it didn't happen. He remembered that he could only use merchant skills, then rushed to cancel disguise. On the other side, the monster swung his sword to attack Ishikawa, but he held the sword and asked her to run. Then, he extended his bracelet to check the status, but it denied, mentioning that it didn't know the status of that class. He chose the arrow and bow, and he released the arrow, which directly struck down the monster, and the monster was down. Excited, she exclaimed that Takayama was so cool. He contemplated that he also disguised the status, so he assumed that his status would remain the same if he forged his status and wondered what he should do. He turned and told Ishikawa that he didn't know, and he was too preoccupied to understand. It seemed that like the bracelet could do many things, and she inquired how he knew how to use it. He pondered that he would keep his mouth shut. Then, he explained everything and added that he was going to keep her safe and asked to keep that a secret. Flushed, she repeated that he said that he would protect her and asked if he was not getting all worked up over one defensive act. She sighed and mentioned that she didn't know what happened, but she would keep that to herself, and in exchange, he would have to protect her. He contemplated that he didn't really understand. But it doesn't seem to be a problem, and he retorted on her to get out of there. She asked if he was mad at her, and he denied, but suddenly noticed the same one with his community, and he asked if that still wanted to do that one, as he was in bad shape. But then one of them mentioned that their leader had been defeated, and they had no intentions of counting. The leader patted them and advised that they must flee and find their resting places, and his army denied and stated that they would die together and cheered to fight the bitter down. Takayama asked if he was fighting to protect his wounded comrades, and the monster stated that it had nothing to do with humans. Takayama created skill and formed bandages and asked them to sit down. He tied them with bandages, and to give those some peace of mind, he explained that it would stop the bleeding, and the leader would survive. The leader mentioned that he would make it up to him, and Takayama stated that it wasn't a problem, and it was not worth the trouble. So, they said farewell and went off. Ishikawa asked if those people were going to be okay, and Takayama mentioned that those peoples were absolutely not human beings. She added that he was very kind, and he denied and pondered that he couldn't just abandon them, and it was just like him in the real world. She held her head and mentioned that those guys were speaking Japanese, and there was so much going on, and it was harder to keep track. But one thing that she did know was that Takayama couldn't defend himself, but she could protect someone. Takayama laughed and asked if really, and she agreed. Just then, the padded mate again, and he explained to her that it was the same as it was last time and asked them to stick with him. They summoned to own area, where other classmates were around, and they acted like they didn't know anything. Suddenly, the queen mentioned that she had never summoned a large group of people before, and there were some mistakes, but they all were there and welcomed them to another world. Astonished, Takayama wondered if she transferred an entire class, and contemplated that if he was the reason, they could never find out. The girl mentioned that she was the princess of the kingdom of Celestia, and her name was Aura. Students whispered that she was the princess and wondered why they were there. The princess interrupted and stated that she knows it was very confusing all of a sudden, so she would explain. The princess smiled and stated that she would like them to take down the demon lord. Students asked if she was kidding, and one told her to get out of there. Just then, the guard extended the sword while asking how dare they insult Princess Aura. Aura stated that she had summoned a strong hero. However, Takayama contemplated that he knew it, that she was there looking for him, and was glad that he kept his disguise on. Aura agreed, mentioning that all of them would be expected to fight as hero candidates. Just then, a boy raised his hand and inquired if he could ask her a question. The guard warned him not to talk to the princess lightly, but she agreed and told him to go ahead. The boy mentioned that he didn't care if she called him a hero or a demon lord, but they had been living in a peaceful country for so long, so they didn't know how to fight. Another girl agreed that she couldn't fight. Princess Aura smiled and explained that they were already ready to fight. While showing the bracelet, she stated that it was attached to their right hand when they arrived there and explained that it was one of the most powerful magic tools in that world. She commanded them to touch it with their middle finger so they could check their enemy's status. One boy did and mentioned that he had got something. Finding that one was a warrior, one was a wizard, and the other was a dancer. Takayama told Ishikawa that for now, she had the strength of a gorilla. Then, Princess Aura continued, telling them to check the bags on their hips. She explained that in the bag, there were skills that could be activated based on their job, and they could attach a maximum of 4 skills to their bracelet at a time. She encouraged them to raise their level, hone their profession, and get the skills they own. She added that they must defeat monsters, accumulate money and experience to slay the demon lord, and if they defeat the demon lord, they would get a reward. Frustrated students retorted that they were not going to fight for her. Suddenly, one guard screamed silence and mentioned that every second that passes, the demon lord was expanding his domain, and more people were dying. He added that he didn't have to explain to them. Sumida replied that they could risk their lives if he said so, and another agreed. Astounded, Takayama was contemplating, and the guard asked the princess if she wanted him to cut down one of them to set an example. She denied and mentioned that following orders out of fear was the last thing they wanted to do. He called it friendly and agreed. Just then, the chairman girl raised her hand and asked how they got home, and the guard stated that if she killed the demon lord, he would send them home and promised it. Then, she comprehended and mentioned that she was willing to comply and added that they have to promise her that they couldn't force someone to do something they don't like. Astounded, the guard stared at the princess, and she agreed. Further, he mentioned that they would divide them based on their rank, and asked one of them to step forward. The chairman goes first and was asked to show her right hand. She did the same and was mentioned as rank as she was provided with a dress while advising that there was a changing room in the back of the room where she could change their clothes, and she agreed. On the other hand, Ishikawa sighed and stated that it doesn't make sense while explaining that it was everything in that world. She added that it was weird to communicate in Japanese in another world, and Takayama explained that it was because of magic or something. They noticed people gathering and spotted a chairman in the dress, which was gorgeous. While Takayama looked at equipment and pondered that it was very expensive equipment and it was the kind of equipment they could use to fight a demon lord, and were looking forward to it. Some others called it cosplay and exciting. Then, it was Takayama's turn, and they asked for his right hand. He was astonished, and they found if there was something like it, and explained that it was the first time in the history of Celestia that he had seen anything like it. Takayama pondered if they find out, but suddenly they gave him a potato and gabu, and mentioned that was good enough for F rank like him. Takayama requested them to explain to him the reasons for that assessment. They exclaimed that his intelligence was low, and also he was a craftsman merchant, and added that horse manure would be more useful. Takayama was stunned and pondered that intelligence was pre-disguise and it was a natural status. They laughed at him and told him to strengthen it, and they started separating the dressed ones into ranks. He asked where F was, but they told him that he could go to D. Then, he looked at the girls and contemplated the innocent look suits on Ishikawa and thought of her as a cute girl. As well, he pondered that Kagawa was perfect for a Lolt character for 10 bikini armor, and Nagano was feeling embarrassed. He pondered that why she was exposing that much as she was usually so quiet, but her clothes were out in the open, and with tears in eyes, he thought that if he could have adventures with them, he could fight for 5 years with his potatoes and yams. They asked him why he was smiling while he cried, and Nagano requested him to not look at her. Then, Ishikawa told Takayama that he should go to the guild, and he asked why. She explained to him that D ranks were supposed to go to the city guild and train appropriately. Further, he asked where it was located, and Nagano stated that she got a map of the city, and he asked if she was sure to do that. Ishikawa stated that she told him that D rank was supposed to go to the guild, and Takayama reverted that he was an F rank, and they were astonished. Kagawa stated that she was not sure that she would be comfortable working with the F rank and was told not to say that, and they consoled Takayama to not cry. On the way, Sumida told Takayama that he was the weakest of them all, and it was kind of his position. Ishikawa asked if he abandoned him too, and Sumida denied, and they showed money and stated that they gave money to go and buy some equipment they like and added that they were wasting their time. Kagawa stated that she was jealous, and Takayama pondered if their status was that great, and he looked at one, which was high-speed chanting, and concluded it was worse than rank D. He thought that Sumida had a better status, but a lack of usable skills was a fatal flaw in that situation, though, and comprehended that the priest doesn't feel comfortable with his assessment. Then, Sumida asked Arakawa if it saw Takayama's intelligence and spotted that it was 5, and another suggested to him that he should change his name to Bakayama. Further, Sumida smirked and inquired what they offered those miserable low ranks, if some clothes or maybe some candy. Nagano stated that they don't need it and added that they don't want someone who looks down on them to bless them, and Kagawa agreed. Sumida stated that she would have to forgive him, Arakama, as it was another world, and he pressed Nagano's boobs while adding that the police weren't going to come for them no matter what they did because she was dressed in such a perverted manner, and Nagano turned in embarrassment. Suddenly, Sumida spotted Takayama, who was still contemplating that why couldn't he speak, and if it was ingrained in his mind that he couldn't fight Sumida as there were so many times when they beaten Demon Lord and he was stronger than him in another world, and yet, instantly, Ishikawa came in front of him while covering and told Sumida that he was the lowest of the low. Sumida smirked and wondered what they should do as the mongrel was barking at them, and the other mentioned that Ishikawa has got a nice body and asked if he wanted to do it. He extended his hands while singing the graduation ceremony, but Takayama held his hands, and he clenched his fists and broke down his fingers. Further, Sumida was asking if he was okay, but Takayama slapped him while stating that 2 shots were for him. And further, he punched him hard for touching them with both of their hands, and Sumida fell hard on the wall. Then, Sumida's friend told Ishikawa that she was a monk and mentioned that he wanted her to heal them, and she denied that she had never done it before. Nagano told her that she didn't have to do it. Further, Ishikawa stated that they couldn't do anything they wanted without the police coming, and she suggested that they level up before they come back. Aside, Kagawa told Takayama that he was amazing and asked if he was sure that he was a rank F, and Ishikawa added that Takayama does what he could for other people, and Nagano agreed. After they left, Sumida was asked if he was okay, as he had been beaten, and he stated that he was going to get his revenge. On the way, Nagano told Takayama that he did great, and Kagawa added that it was surprising for a guy who gets bullied. Ishikawa explained that they might also do something extraordinary. Further, Nagano inquired if it was possible for them to get stronger, and Ishikawa explained to her that they could go to the guild and train there. Takayama thought that they were getting close. They finally reached the guild and found that it was a distinctive building. An old man asked if they were the heroes of another world. He introduced himself as Makishi, the guild leader, and explained that he had heard the story from the priest, so they must have a chat. They all entered the guild, and Makishi told them that they all looked weak, and all were like weak people. Kagawa retorted that they just took out a B-ranked hero candidate earlier, and he mentioned to start with the evaluation. He looked into the details and mentioned that it was so weak and asked if they were really a hero candidate. Ishikawa exclaimed that's why they came here. Just then, Riri came and asked if they beat a B rank, and added that they would be soon surpassed by her. Ishikawa asked what she meant, and Riri explained that at rank B and above, they would be recognized for their prowess. They've received a gifted education and, as abandoned by the kingdom, were stray dogs, and added that stray dogs were no match for trained bloodhounds. They all were astounded. Makishi stated that he wouldn't want to say a bad thing about it and asked her to stay out of sight, somewhere. Riri kept staring at Nagano, and Kagawa stated that they were going to have to hide. Ishikawa stated that she didn't understand why they had to live in hiding. Lily took the details and mentioned that she liked Ishikawa, and added that she would help her find out who she was, and Makishi warned her to not even think about it. She told him that he knew what she saw, and she explained to him that the boy took down the ogre that once ruled that area, and he took it down in one shot. Then, she suggested them to follow her, and they all did the same. Further, Lily explained that it was the child's underground arena, and asked if they get the weapons they gave them, and Takayama stated that it was his weapon, a gabu. Ishikawa asked her to show them how to use its skills, and Lily told her to put a jewel in her bracelet and say the name of their skill. Kagawa stated that she didn't know the name of the skill, and Nagano told her that she would see the information when she put it in. Then, she asked if they were ready and added that they would now move on to the practical test. She plunged to attack, and Kagawa stopped the attack by using a weapon, and Lily told her that Miu was the shield, and it was her job to protect them. Then Nagano cast the flame accidentally, which burned Lily's half panty, and it was visible. Takayama was seeing it, and Ishikawa retorted on him that he had seen too much. Lily told Ishikawa that the wizard was the power of the party, and Ishikawa agreed that she would do it, and she recovered Lily. Further, Lily told her that she shouldn't recover, and Ishikawa apologized to her. Then Lily exclaimed that Kagawa also has skills, and she cast a physical guard, and Lily appraised her, and she got above them, and they screamed to get under the shield. Lily placed her weapon in her mouth, and she cast magic while stating that magic would penetrate, and Kagawa was down. Nagano called it terrible and was astonished to see her down and asked if she was hearing, and Takayama mentioned that she was fine and was sleeping. Lily was relieved. Further, Lily stated that she had done well and added that all three, Ishikawa, Nagano Hitomi, and Kawasaki had passed. Takayama asked what was about him, and she told him that he was not finished yet, as he hadn't shown his medal yet. He explained that he didn't have any talent and added that he was the F-ranked weakest merchant in the world. Lily retorted that was a lie, as she saw it that he defeated the monk Yuna and the ogre, and as in a ranked, would have a hard time taking down an ogre in a single blow. He exclaimed that he didn't know what she was talking about. Suddenly, Lily extended to attack, but Takayama dodged it, and he took her weapon down and broke it with his legs, and asked what she was doing. Lily smirked while stating that dodging from that distance, and he took her weapon, so she wanted to find out what he was capable of, and she plunged to punch, and again he dodged all the attacks while mentioning that he had no intention of fighting. Lily retorted on him to fight as it was a hero's duty. Then, he stated that he didn't want to and rushed from there while explaining that he just wanted to live a life of leisure and contemplated that he didn't like being told to fight, and she was sure that he had a lot of practice and her sword streaks were hard, and from his point of view, the movements were very slow and he would be easy to take down, but if he defeats a talented person it was going to be a disaster. After multiple attacks, Lily asked why he was not attacking and he denied and mentioned that he couldn't afford to, and at last he surrendered. Annoyed, Lily inquired if he was insulting her and what reason did he have to hide his abilities, and he explained that was about as good as he could do and he was not the one who handled the ogre but someone else. Further, Lily showed him a vision magic tool and explained that the battle between the ogre and Takayama was recorded with this, and his excuses were impossible, and asked if he wanted her to keep a secret, and Takayama was astounded. Then, Lily asked him to get ready and he pondered if he should show his ability with the same degree of force as he punched Sumida, and he struck her hard. Stunned, Lily thought that she cracked it, but her weapon struck Takayama and he was down, and spotted that there were no scratches on Takayama. Then, Makishi asked Lily if they could stop, and she denied, and he retorted on her that no matter what she did, Takayama was passing, and she turned and retorted on him that it was her problem, and she was going to make him fight seriously. And she started cast secret skill, Phantom Blow. While Lily was casting a secret skill, Makashi told the other three girls to get out of there. Ishikawa asked why, and he explained to her that the Phantom Blow was a skill that allows her to concentrate all of their stats into attack, and in return, they lose the ability to distinguish between friend and foe. Lily's rage was high, and they all ran to escape. Ishikawa called Takayama, but he couldn't, as till then Lily was close to him, and she blew a punch on him but he dodged the attack. Others escaped safely while screaming for Takayama, and inside Takayama was contemplating that Lily was disoriented and it was his chance, and decided to destroy the magic tool. But Lily was attacking fast and was attacking from all sides, and he was struggling and pondering that he was on the defensive. The odds against him, but if they could do any more damage, and he would end up dead and they would end up dead, and it would be so much easier if he could just use his hero skills, as he didn't want to do any more damage. He dodged and kicked her while lying down to push her away, and spotted that her weapon was broken, and he picked the sharpest part of it and threw hard, which broke down Lily's device, and was happy that the evidence was destroyed. Just then, he realized that she was behind him and he fainted there. Lily came back to her senses and wondered if it was too much, and the others came inside, and Ishikawa was astonished, and Lily checked his heart and was relieved that his heart was still beating, while Takayama was contemplating that she has got 12-0 damage, and Makishi mentioned to take him to the infirmary. Ishikawa was worried, and Makishi told her that was okay as he just passed out, while Takayama was contemplating that he might be able to hide his ability, and they went to the infirmary. Inside the infirmary, Makishi apologized to them, and Lily realized that her magic tool was gone and wondered if it was possible because of Takayama, and Makishi mentioned that he was a boy with mysterious powers and added that he would keep an eye on Takayama, and they could go and take a bath, and Kagawa agreed that she wanted to go as she was sweating, and Makishi asked Ishikawa and she looked skeptical, so he consoled her that Takayama was strong and he would wake up soon enough, and Lily told her to go for a change of scenery, and Ishikawa agreed. They all left, and Takayama contemplated that he should get up soon, and after some time, Takayama woke up and Makishi was relieved and told him that he needed to rest, and Takayama mentioned that he was going to use the bathroom, and Makishi suggested him to take a right at the end of the hall, and he thanked him. Then Takayama got outside and noticed that there were walls and wondered if at the end of the hall he meant the wall, and was stressed as he was leaking. In the bathroom, the girls were taking a bath and heard a noise and wondered if someone was peeking, and Lily stated that she would teach him a lesson. They made plans, and Lily told them that she would open the window and Ishikawa would hit him, and Nagana would burn them with magic, and Kagawa would use water to put out the fire. Then, Lily opened the window, but Ishikawa slipped and she fell on Takayama, and her chest was between Takayama's face as well. He sucked her. Stunned, she screamed, and Takayama mentioned that she opened the window and she was the one, and added that he was lost and he thought that he was going to leak. And Ishikawa asked what did he have to do in there, and Lily told her that he didn't mean to, so she should have to forgive him. Makishi told them to eat rice for the time being, and explained that those burdocks were delicious, and Lily inquired if he used Aruto burdocks, and he called it simple. Then, Makishi asked what kind of food those guys usually eat, and Takayama asked if he had oil and salt, and he took the potato and started chopping it, and Makishi exclaimed that it was a waste to chop the potatoes, and Lily asked if he was ready for some oil, and he put the potatoes in oil, and Lily asked if it was okay as it was thinking enough to see through, and Takayama agreed and stated it was ready. He served them, and Nagano was excited as it was potato chips, and they all took a bite and were contented with its flavor. Makishi inquired what was with the crunchy texture, and mentioned that saltiness was perfect as asked for more. Then, Lily ordered to bring a bunch of potatoes for her, and Takayama took chips to Ishikawa and mentioned that she should eat too, and she denied while stating that she didn't need to, and Takayama mentioned that he made it for her and she took one chip and ate, and was thrilled. Takayama told her to not get upset, and Kagawa stated that Ishikawa was in love with Takayama so there should be no problem, and Ishikawa was shocked. They all sat and were eating chips. Ishikawa asked what the rest of the class was eating, and Lily explained that for rank A, it was hot cuisine, and Ishikawa reverted that she liked it, and Lily stated that if she was frustrated, all she could do was keep trying, and Nagano asked if they have to protect themselves. Lily smiled and told them to not worry as she would keep her all in good shape, and Nagano asked if she was sure, and Lily stated that despite the fact the way she looks she was a teacher, and Makishi requested to use that facility to apologize for the inconvenience caused by his daughter. However, they were running out of room, so Takayama's was going to stay in the outhouse, and Takayama exclaimed that was terrible. The girls went to the room, and Takayama reached the outhouse and sighed that it was a kennel, and he took wood and used his creative skill and turned it into creative furniture, and he turned it into a bed, and called it good work if he do say so himself. Just then, Ishikawa came there and was amazed that he made a bed, and he asked her where everyone was. Ishikawa explained to him that they were tired and fell asleep, and he added that it was a tough day. And further, she mentioned that potato chips were delicious, and he thanked her. Further, she sat and apologized that she had been causing him a lot of trouble ever since they got there, and Takayama mentioned that it was fun, added that it was the first time he had ever laughed with anyone other than his sister, and Ishikawa smiled. Takayama contemplated that life in another world that began with disguise, and it wouldn't hurt to have adventures with those girls, and Ishikawa was trying to get close to him, but Lily came and apologized to interrupt their flirting. Ishikawa got panicked, and further Lily stated that their friends were there. Both of them got outside, and they spotted Tanaka and the chairman and asked what was going on, and the chairman told him that she was there to get in touch with him, mentioned that there would be a dungeon exploration contest in 3 months. The chairman stated that they were having a contest to see how well they have trained, and Tanaka added that there was a reward, so they must go for it. Takayama stated that he would pass, and Ishikawa asked why. He stated that it was a pain in the ass, and Ishikawa told them it sounds fun and she was in, and Tanaka agreed to work together. Takayama wished them good luck and turned to get back to his room, but Ishikawa grabbed him and stated that he touched his tits and requested him to cooperate, and he agreed. The next moment, they all trained, and they finally reached the place. 3 months before the contest, that was where they would train, and Lily gave Takayama a present. He took it and stated that her equipment, he ripped it, and Lily told him that was not good and added that she didn't think that she had anything to teach Takayama. She asked if they just focus on them, and Kagawa inquired if they were that weak, and Nagano agreed to catch up with Takayama, and Ishikawa agreed. Then, Ishikawa told Takayama to make beds for everyone and to wait for them, and he agreed and wondered what everyone in his class was doing for training. On the other hand, Sumida was working hard to be strong and asked the other girl if she didn't want to be strong, and she denied. The others wondered why Sumida was all worked up, if about losing to Takayama, and furious Sumida agreed. Further, he took his weapon and stated that he was ranked B. His friends suggested him to put his weapon down, but he extended the sword to other boys, and they apologized to him. Sumida retorted in anger that he was much stronger than them, as well he was superior, and warned them to run away, so the others ran into fear. Suddenly, Tanaka hit Sumida, and he was down and sighed that he was weak. Then, they told the students to go back to training, and they all agreed. His friend asked Sumida if he was okay, and Sumida inquired what was B rank as he had such high hopes for it and struck his head to the land. Just then, Princess Aura came and asked if he wanted to be strong, and he agreed, so she patted on him and decided to give him the power. She gave him power as well as asked him to work for her, and he was growling with power. The princess guard asked why she had to take care of that trash, and she explained that a guy like that was just a thing to get rid of. 3 months later, Lily stated that she was proud of them for overcoming such difficult training, and added that it was time to go out there and compete with confidence. Takayama praised them, and Kagawa asked what he had been up to for 3 months. Ishikawa replied that he did shed renovation. Further, Takayama mentioned to clean up the shed and go home, and Ishikawa mentioned that she couldn't wait to get back to Japan, and Nagano reverted that she was sure her dad was worried about her. Instantly they spotted smoke coming from somewhere, and Lily inquired if there was a fire, and Takayama stated that it was in the shed. So they all went to see in front of the shed, and they all were astounded and found a letter stating that what they say is that they have a busting contest, and who could have such a terrible thing. After reading, Takayama clenched his fists in anger. Princess explained that it was the dungeon they were about to enter, and there would be a reward for the team that defeats the boss, and that was all. They all wished good luck to the president and cheered her to defeat the demon lord while she was at it. On the other hand, Takayama asked Lily if she was following him, and Lily told him that she wanted to see what Aruto could do. Takayama stated that she could sneak in there, but if she got disqualified, and Lily exclaimed that they were the hero candidates. She looked at Sumida and mentioned that his powers were demonic, and Takayama stared at him, stating that the letter was written by Sumida. Further, Takayama mentioned that he was going, and Ishikawa stated that if Aruto was going, so she was going too, and Lily added that if it comes to it, she would fight too, and Takayama agreed. While Takayama pondered that how did Sumida get that demonic power, as it was because he was wrong. That's why, and decided to get that over with. They were advised to get on the cart, and they all got onto the carts and were slid and spotted ogres. Just then, Ishikawa screamed due to bats, and Takayama told her to calm down as they were small. Suddenly, one bat came at the face of Ishikawa, and she was about to fall, and they were finally there. Just then, Nagano was astonished, and Kagero asked what was that and spotted Ishikawa sitting on Takayama's face. She asked if they could do something like that in secret, and Ishikawa cried that her status as a girl was going down. They stood, and Takayama asked where his hat was, and the chairman announced that from there, the fighting began and requested to step back for those of them who did not wish to fight, but all were still there. Chapter 6. They all told the class monitor to start off, and they exclaimed that class monitor and the others were doing pretty good. When Takayama and Ishikawa were about to help, they heard a noise of a girl crying asking for help as she was going to be killed. Ishikawa used the holy arrow and attacked the enemy with it, and then it was Kagero's turn and she attacked it with shield bash, and Nagano mentioned that she should finish it with that magic. She cast an explosion and was relieved that they did it. They asked the girl if she was okay, and Ishikawa saw and stated that she didn't think that she needed recovery. The other students saw it all and asked if it was Takayama's group, and exclaimed that they all sure were strong and called it cool. Takayama smirked and mentioned that Ishikawa and the others were cool. The students looked at the girls and stated that they must have made an effort and much more than the others in the class. They asked what Takayama was doing, and he mentioned that he was watching over them. Further, he asked if they had seen Sumida anywhere, and the one student mentioned that he saw him and Arakawa going that way. Takayama stated that it was better not to seek him out as he had gotten weird recently. He knew, but he had to meet him and was suggested to be careful, and he thanked them. So they all moved further and noticed that enemies were down, and Takayama stated that they weren't simply defeated and they were only hit in their weak spots. He added that Sumida was probably really strong and it was dangerous from there, so he stated that he would go alone. Ishikawa asked if it was dangerous going alone, and Nagano agreed and stated that they were a party after all. Takayama agreed and flushed. On the other hand, Tanaka stated that they came quite far in, and the chairman agreed and added that he was reliable. He mentioned that he wanted to protect the class monitor, and the chairman was perplexed, so he turned and asked if they would get back in Japan, but was interrupted by Sumida. He hit Tanaka in the face, as well Tanaka's helmet was broken. After being down, Tanaka asked him why he did that, and Sumida replied that it was revenge and asked if that wasn't a rank for him and asked if he was still alive. Tanaka coughed, and Sumida kicked him. The chairman got him and asked if he was okay and retorted that they needed to stop him and attacked with a guilty cross which stuck him onto the wall. He retorted that he didn't want to have a meaningless battle with a fellow hero. Sumida laughed and the chairman couldn't believe that it couldn't be, as Sumida tore down the ropes and stated that magic below a rank wouldn't even leave a scratch on him and aggressively moved forward. Tanaka covered while asking the class monitor to get behind him and stated that he would protect her. Sumida smirked and asked if he wanted to play, and Tanaka explained that his strength was absurd and he couldn't keep holding back like that. He plunged to attack while mentioning that he was going to go all out and cast a lightning sword. He attacked and blasted, but Tanaka noticed that his sword was gone, and Sumida exclaimed that it was with him and laughed at him. The class monitor went to attack, but Sumida broke down her armor and she was naked. Tanaka asked her to run away, but she denied while stating that she couldn't just leave Tanaka behind. Tanaka cried while asking Sumida why he couldn't use that strength to do the right thing as they were supposed to be heroes. Sumida replied that he was not really interested in that kind of thing, good and evil and all that, which was why he would fight for his own reasons. He attacked Tanaka while asking if he could kindly withdraw that sword. Takayama and his team were venturing where enemies were down, and Nagano stated that it was easier than they thought. Takayama exclaimed that it looked like Sumida did most of the work for them. They reached, and Lily asked if it was his goal. She added that Sumida defeated it easily and she got quite the beating from the boss the last time, losing quite a bit of self-confidence. She wondered how he could get that strong in just 3 months, and while pointing the way, she told Takayama that Sumida passed through there. Further, she asked what he was going to do, and he stated that he would end it there. She wished him to do his best. On the other hand, Sumida was fighting with another and was asked to give his introduction. He stated that he was going to kill him anyway, as well as everyone he didn't like. Just then, they all reached, and Sumida moved towards him, stating to decide that 1v1 once and for all, and he agreed. Further, Sumida asked him to follow him, and Tanaka warned him not to do it, as well as the class monitor exclaimed that even a ranks couldn't touch him. She was told that he didn't want an F rank like to head to his death, and Takayama replied that he hated fighting as well but he wanted to end that. Then, he asked Sumida to promise that when that ends, he wouldn't hurt anymore if he could win. Ishikawa and the other two asked him to come back soon, and he agreed. After that, Arakawa stated that he envies those guys, and Nagano retorted on him to stop doing bad things. He mentioned that he would fight along with Sumida as that was what friendship means. The other man put his sword on and was about to leave, so the class monitor thanked him, and he quietly got out of there. They reached, and Sumida told Takayama that they could fight as hard as they want to in there. Enthusiastically, Sumida mentioned that he would be taking that seriously, and as well, he threw an attack, but Takayama dodged it by creative skill. Then, he created a bow and shot the arrow to the target. After seeing him, Sumida stated that there was no way he was an F rank, and asked if he knew that the class monitor and the others took it easy on him, but apparently he was not worthy of their mercy, and called it a lie while stating him in a rank. Further, Sumida started striking him with the sword, but as soon as Takayama hit the sword with his bow, the sword broke down. Then, perplexed, he asked what he was trying to say, and Sumida explained that his strength might not be able to be measured by rank, but he was looking down on him for being a B rank and inquired if it was because he was bullied. While dodging, Takayama retorted that he was not interested in revenge, and he punched Sumida but noticed that there was no effect. Aggressively, Sumida retorted that he wanted to kill him, and when he would be dead, he added that he would have fun with his women too. Takayama pushed and asked him to stop dreaming, and by using creative skill, he created a lock blade. He pointed and suggested Sumida not think it would go like he thinks, and he plunged and struck the sword. When Sumida tried to move, Takayama kicked him and held his sword and cut down Sumida while mentioning that was an end. Sumida fell on the wall in pain and Takayama, while pointing his sword, asked him to promise that he wouldn't hurt anyone again, and he agreed. Then Takayama smiled and kept his sword down. Suddenly, Sumida grabbed his face while stating that he got careless. Perplexed, Takayama wondered what was happening with him, and Sumida explained that it was the curse of evil and considered it as his win. Ishikawa asked Tanaka if he was okay, and he agreed. They heard a noise, and Nagano asked if it was Takayama. Ishikawa mentioned that she would go take a look, and Tanaka stated that he took Kagawa, told them to wait there, and went beside her. Ishikawa spotted Sumida hitting Takayama and was astonished. She used the holy arrow and struck it to Sumida, but he dodged it, and the arrow hit the wall. They all went towards Takayama and asked if he was okay. Sumida warned them not to get in the way, and Kagawa retorted on him to shut up. Ishikawa stated that she would use recovery right away, and she started recovering him. So, Sumida plunged while exclaiming that he would let her, but she attacked him with the holy arrow in his chest, and he moved back while stating that he would kill her. Takayama asked Ishikawa to get back, but she was astounded and inquired if it wasn't Aruto the one who should get back. He contemplated that it was true that with all the damage he took, he lost most of his strength, but he promised to protect her. She reverted that she never expected him to and added that she just wanted to help him. Just then, Sumida retorted that playtime was over and to end that. Then, Takayama asked Ishikawa to lend him her strength and to hold his hand. However, Kagawa came in between and protected both with her ally guard. She mentioned that she would protect him, and Takayama thanked her. Takayama said, "Holy power wash down," and she agreed. He used his creative skill, Holy Dagger Creation. While doing so, he thought that Ishikawa was always supporting him even back then, and the daggers were ready. Further, he took the dagger and plunged to attack, but Sumida dodged his attack while stating that he was too slow and added that the curse was still working. Takayama was about to fall, but he regained and retorted that Sumida's weak point after being corrupted by evil, and he cut down Sumida in between. His armor was broken, and he was amazed. Further, Takayama stated that it looked like the corruption was gone, and Sumida was screaming as he lose. Takayama left him behind, and outside the princess thanked everyone for their participation in their Dungeon Divine contest, and gave Sumida his prize. Ishikawa asked if Sumida was supposed to receive that, and Takayama explained to her that he did defeat the boss. Then, it was Takayama's turn, and he asked to give him Mad. The princess guard inquired if he found out who that hero was, and Takayama denied and stated that it was not from that bunch. Then, the princess wished them well in their continued efforts in eliminating the Demon King. The next day, they were sitting, and Lily came with a bag and asked Takayama if he could use that. She explained that it was called an item box, and as the name implies, he could put things in it. Ishikawa asked if it was expensive, and Lily explained to her that it was about 100 times what their equipment costs. Ishikawa was stunned and inquired if that's supposed to be a special gift to a special person. Lily denied. Unbeknownst to them, Makishi stated that it was from him and added that he sold Takayama's potato chips while they were gone, and he made some serious dough. Stunned, Takayama called him one hell of a merchant. Further, Lily asked about defeating the Demon King. Ishikawa dejected and stated that she was not sure if they could still do that. Lily reverted that the guild's basement was turned into a high-end factory and added sugar. Then it was time for the three of them to go back to training, and they all were stressed about it. Makishi inquired about Takayama, and he stated that he was wondering if he could be a shopkeeper till the demon was defeated. Makishi asked him about some part-time, as he would have a much easier time with some experience under his belt, and Takayama agreed that he would go and take a look. He reached and mentioned that he was there for some part-time job, and the shopkeeper rushed towards him. While looking at him, he wondered if he could do it, and Takayama retorted that he was confident about his abilities. Just then, the shopkeeper noticed an item box and was amazed. So, he stated that he looks trustworthy, and he does have some experience even though it all burnt down. Further, the shopkeeper asked him if he could try making a table set for him as a try, and Takayama checked and mentioned that it was a set meant for a newlywed couple, which he could do, and the shopkeeper requested him to make it quick. So, Takayama used his creative skill level to create furniture, and he started doing it, and in seconds the set was ready. The shopkeeper was thrilled as it was beautiful, and even though it was well made, he asked if he could sign a contract for him, and Takayama agreed. After he signed the contract, the shopkeeper asked him to pay him 100,000 gorda. Stunned, Takayama stared at him, and the shopkeeper asked if he didn't read that contract as it says that all the material costs have to be covered by himself. Further, Takayama asked how much exactly was 100 gorda, and the shopkeeper explained that it could be around what it would cost to buy a new house. Takayama retorted that it was plain theft and asked that there was no way that wood was that expensive, and the shopkeeper explained that was a rare wood that takes 300,000 years to develop into a tree, and contracts were the lifeblood of merchants, and he had to pay it even if he had to sell his liver. If he couldn't pay, he would get a trooper to get him arrested. Then, the shopkeeper mentioned that if he gave him that item box, he could overlook it, and if he didn't want to, he could always pay him. Just then, a girl came there and asked if that was that mythical wood that takes 300,000 years to develop. As well, for such an age, there were not a lot of rings in the wood. The shopkeeper replied that was how it was supposed to look like, and the girl asked to take it to a merchant guild appraiser, and they would see. Further, the shopkeeper asked who she was, and she mentioned that she was Rokoko, a member of the merchant guild. The shopkeeper started apologizing, requested her that he would never do it again, and asked to at least spare his license. She turned and mentioned that she would not forgive him next time, and he thanked her. Just then, Takayama stopped her and thanked her for helping him, but the girl called him a lousy merchant to fall for such an obvious trick, and Takayama showed her paper. He stated that it was recommended to him by an associate there, and the girl was astounded and reverted that he was in the wrong address and told her way to the shop. She asked if he was the one who was supposed to come for the part-time job, and added that from then he would be his younger brother. Rokoko stated that she didn't ask his name yet, and Takayama introduced himself. Further, she mentioned that might be a bit early and asked him to go to the port and buy some fish. She added that it would be great if they could have some more hands, and Takayama mentioned that he might just have some people. While in the training area, all three girls were doing training with Lily. She retorted them to not scream like that. Just then, Takayama reached there, and Ishikawa noticed him and got hidden behind him. Further, Lily asked him why he was there as they were in the middle of training. Takayama asked if it was okay if he borrowed Ishikawa and the others for a bit, but Lily denied, mentioning that they were training. Those three were astounded. Instantly, Makishi asked him to explain his reasons, and he got closer to him. He further inquired if that would make money, and Takayama said it might. Instantly, Makishi allowed him to go and to take everyone with him. Astonished, Lily retorted, screaming, and Makishi mentioned that Takayama was a tree that grows money, and asked her to believe in him. Lily reverted that it was money again and added that he wasn't like that before. Takayama told them to just go. On the way, in the cart, Ishikawa stated that apparently Lily got quite the shock in the contest. Takayama asked if she said that they were struggling with the boss that Sumida defeated, and they all agreed in pain. Rokoko sighed that it felt like a disaster, and inquired to take a breather once their work was done in the port city. Ishikawa inquired about the place, so Rokoko explained that it was a port city called Portia, and since it received a lot of foreign trade there were a lot of things there. Enthusiastically, Kagawa stated that she wanted to buy stuff with her allowance, and Rokoko added that Portia was famous for its resorts, and it was famous for the beach and the seafood. Ishikawa was contemplating the foods while Takayama was pondering about girls. They reached the port, and her boss was there, and she asked her boss if he could spare her 10 like usual. He apologized and stated that there were only 3 in their fishing spot and explained that a shark turned up again, and that was all he could get. Rokoko exclaimed that it was some bad luck and asked if there was anything else that might interest her. Then, her boss pointed and mentioned that it was only sharks. Takayama asked if it was tuna, and the boss asked what the hell was tuna, stating that it was a black shark. He added that Takayama could have it if he wanted as he was gonna throw it away anyway. Perplexed, Takayama asked if he was not going to eat it, and he denied, calling it reels as well oily. Astounded, Takayama stared at the shark and asked for a knife. After he got a knife, he cut down the shark and took a bite, delighted with the taste. He exclaimed that it was really tuna and asked Rokoko to try it. She agreed. Then she took a bite and failed it, stating that it was so rubbery and smells so fishy, and she couldn't sell that. Ishikawa asked them to let them try, and they all took a bite, exclaiming that it was tasty but really oily and the fishy smell was bothering them. Rokoko agreed and stated that if they couldn't get rid of the smell and the oiliness, it wouldn't amount to anything. Astounded, Takayama pondered and excitedly asked Rokoko if they had seasoning, and she stated that she had a mountain of cooking stuff in her item bag. She picked out stuff and placed it outside, stating that there was stuff there from everywhere in the world and asked him to use anything he liked. Takayama checked and found soy sauce, and Kagawa found wasabi. He served tuna with seasonings. Rokoko asked if that would do anything, and the boss asked to let him have some too. They took a bite and were delighted with the taste, and exclaimed that it was so good and asked how the hell he did it. Further, Rokoko stated that the shark smell of that paste erased the fishy smell, and the black sauce enhanced the flavor of the fish, and that would sell. She asked her boss to give her all the black sharks he got, and he agreed. In an eatery in Portia, Rokoko asked if they could lend her the place for 100,000 gorda, and she agreed. Just then, Rokoko waved to start preparing, and Takayama entered with 2 tunas. Further, they asked Nagano if she could use water magic, and she asked if it would be simple enough. Rokoko agreed. Then she told her that she wanted her to put ice in the cooler box, and Kagawa added that she would help. Nagano cast her magic and poured the water in a cooler box with the help of Kagawa. While Ishikawa was clearing the area as well, Takayama was doing something. After some time, Rokoko mentioned to take a small break as she brought some drinks. Further, she added that she had many so they could pick what they liked, and Kagawa picked and drank orange juice. Then, Nagano drank another and spat it while Rokoko was asking her if she could take one to Takayama. She took it and stepped towards him, and behind Rokoko asked if she did something bad, and Kagawa denied and Ishikawa called Sir weird. Takayama was doing his work when Nagano threw the bottle on him, and he asked if she brought it for him. She drank and was thrilled if there were things like that in that world too. Just then, Nagano grabbed him from behind, and he asked if she smelled like alcohol. But Nagano touched his lips and inquired if it really matters, and she asked if he knew why she was so excited while licking the finger. Takayama pushed her away while stating that he don't know, and she asked him to let her tell him, and she abruptly snapped her shirt off and exposed her naked body and asked if he wanted to see her body. Just then, Ishikawa embarrassingly asked what she was doing. Rokoko and Kagawa were waiting outside, and they heard Nagano's voice. They noticed that Ishikawa was running, and they stepped to see what it was. They were appalled upon seeing the lewd scene in front of them. As their faces reddened, Rokoko questioned what the hell they were doing inside the shop. Takayama stuttered and responded that it was just a misunderstanding. He explained that Nagano was drunk. As Nagano was forcing herself on him, he exclaimed and asked Rokoko to stop her. She agreed and accidentally bumped her face into her huge chest, and Nagano exclaimed that she had got an attitude for a shorty. Just then, Rokoko stated that Nagano was out of control, and asked Kagawa to let her sleep on the second floor, and she agreed. While Nagano kept stating that she wasn't sleepy yet, Rokoko exclaimed that she had got sleeping medicine, and they took Nagano to the second floor. After that, they were unable to find Ishikawa, and they at last found her. Rokoko stated that she was at fault for Nagano, and Kagawa explained to her that she was drunk so it couldn't be helped. Sadly, Ishikawa asked if Nagano liked Takeyama, and further questioned what if Takeyama likes Nagano too, and Kagawa blushed. Rokoko asked her what was the bother and mentioned that she could just ask Takeyama, and if she was scared to take risks, she would never get anywhere, at least in business. The next morning, Takeyama hanged the banner and was relaxed that was okay. Just then, Nagano came to him and stated that she caused him a lot of trouble yesterday, and he laughed. Further, she stated that she couldn't remember much of what happened and asked if she did something horrible. Takeyama inquired if she really did not remember anything, and she agreed, so he told her to forget about it, and Nagano exclaimed that she couldn't do that, and Ishikawa was looking at them from behind. Rokoko called Takeyama and asked him to bring out the sashimi. Then, she took the mic and welcomed everyone and mentioned that they had got some real interesting food that day, which taste would even appease royalty, and they would regret it if they didn't take that chance. Then, Takeyama took it to a person asking for a sample, and a man looked at it and stated that it was raw meat, and there was no way he would eat it. Rokoko told Takeyama that it didn't work and added that there was a heavy stigma against raw food in that region, and Takeyama exclaimed that it would be impossible to sell, and she agreed. She opened her item bag while stating that they should understand if they just tried it, the greatness of sashimi, and she changed the tactics and told them to wear a bikini. Thrice of them wear it, and the people were appalled, and thrice of them offered the sample while mentioning that it was tasty, then flushed and wondered what they should do, and another mentioned to take only a single bite. They took one of the samples and took a bite and were delighted with its taste. Another added that was the first time he ate something so good and it melts well in his mouth too. Another man moved towards Nagano to have one too, and like that, a crowd gathered there. Further, Nagano stated that they have been selling in that eatery, so they should pay them patronage. Just then, a man ran to eat while screaming that they would eat their heart out as well they would eat even if he had to borrow money. And they started eating it. Annoyed, Takeyama mentioned that he felt like he cheated, flaunting those guys, but if they get the taste of tuna, it might as well be called a success, and Ishikawa agreed. Further, he added that Nagano was cute and added that she was getting way too many admirers. Ishikawa screamed at him that he could go and help her, and they all stared at her. Further, she turned and went off, and he asked Kagawa what was with Ishikawa. She told him to ask himself what he did wrong, and he further inquired if it was his fault, but she stated that she didn't know. Ishikawa was standing inside the water, and Takeyama came. First, he folded his pants and went inside and asked her why she was feeling so down about. Ishikawa asked him to think for himself, but he stated that he was asking because he didn't understand though. Then, Ishikawa retorted to him that why couldn't he understand, and she moved closer to him mentioning that he was such a troublesome man, and while touching him, she asked if he could understand her feelings if she do that. Suddenly, a monster came out of the water and ate both of them. After coming to sense, Ishikawa woke him up and asked if he was okay and wondered where they were. And the girl came stating that he wounded that world. She finally had him on her plan and she would make sure to destroy him utterly. For 11, the girl stated that he has inhuman powers and mentioned to him that it was no use trying to feign ignorance. She showed him a magical stone machine and explained that she felt quite the presence. So she used a magic stone machine and observed using a familiar. His fight was quite magnificent, and that was the first time when she had seen that level of power, at least in humans. Frustrated, she broke down the magic stone machine and asked him to fight her. They should see who was stronger. Takeyama denied and walked off, stating that he was just a merchant and he was not interested in that kind of stuff. She snapped her finger, the floor broke, and there was fog everywhere. She came and asked if he really thought that he could run from the Demon King. Perplexed, he asked about the Demon King, and she mentioned that she was the Demon King, Elizabeth. Further, she plunged and grabbed his neck with absurd power. She hit him with her flame and thought that was it. But Elizabeth was astonished as she noticed that there was no effect on his body. Takeyama stated that he thought for sure he was dead. Astonished, Elizabeth asked that he get hit by her flame attack and still lived. He retorted to her that to look what she did, as she ruined his clothes. She was astounded, and she mentioned that he was angry, so he stepped towards her and mentioned that it was time for punishment. He punched her on her head, and Elizabeth got angry that he gave her punishment and asked him who the hell did he think of her and added that she wouldn't forgive him. Then, she raised her hand and transformed herself into a demon. She picked him up and laughed while stating that it was her true form. And playtime was over. She took him up and screamed that she would make him regret what he did, and she plunged to hit him to the ground. Annoyed, he stated that if he hit the ground like that, he might actually die, and he asked Ishikawa to run, and pondered that he wouldn't make it. So, he freed himself from the grasp of the demon, and first he apologized to use full of his strength. Then he punched down the demon on the ground. Elizabeth fell hard. Instantly her army came up, and she asked them to retreat and asked if they didn't see that guy's strength, as they would be trampled. Further, Ishikawa and Takayama mentioned that she said she was the Demon King and asked if they could go back to their world if they defeat her. He contemplated the same, that their aim was to defeat the Demon Lord, and if he defeated her, they could go back home. But he noticed the ogre, and the ogre stated that he was ogre from back then and added that there was something he wanted him to know. The ones to start that were in the first place were humans. He explained that humans came to where they were living peacefully and killed off countless demons, as well as not just troops and soldiers, they killed indiscriminately. The Demon King thought that Takayama might become a threat, so she wanted to not let him. Takayama exclaimed that he couldn't see them as bad guys and he might be looking for a way that could go back without defeating the Demon King. Then Ishikawa smiled. Elizabeth stated that he had strength enough to defeat the Demon King and a heart big enough to forgive one that tried to kill him, which she liked and asked him to give his children. Annoyed, Ishikawa told her that it wouldn't do at all. Elizabeth held Ishikawa and asked if she liked Takayama. She stated that she would have him on even-numbered days, and Ishikawa could have him on the rest of the days and asked how it was, but Ishikawa denied. Takayama stated that others might be worried at that point and to go back then. Elizabeth stated that she would come with him, but Ishikawa denied. But her team held her, asking her to recover first, but she kept screaming that she wanted to go with him. Takayama decided to go while she was distracted, and the ogre told him that he would help him get back and let him sit on the dragon to fly back and to meet again. A few days later, Rokoko spotted them coming back, and while seeing him, Rokoko excitedly slapped him while stating that she thought he died. Just then, Nagano and Kagawa came and stated that they were worried. Rokoko mentioned to go in and talk, as it was weird to just stand around, and they told the whole story of what happened. Ishikawa stated that it looked like they would have to find a method other than defeating the Demon King to go back to Japan. Nagano called it a surprising development that the Demon King was not the enemy. Just then, Elizabeth asked what they were eating, and they got astonished. Ishikawa also asked what she was doing there, and she asked if they couldn't guess already. Elizabeth shouted that she was there to have Takayama's children, and Ishikawa pushed her while denying and added that it was not her decision, and she wasn't a Demon King. Kagawa asked if she wasn't scared of the Demon King, and Nagano was astounded. Takayama wondered what was all that ruckus and went to see them, and Elizabeth asked what he was holding, and he explained to her that it was a food from his country called sashimi. She asked if she could eat it, and he agreed and was delighted with the taste. She exclaimed that she had tasted food from east to west, but that was her first time eating something like that, and asked if he could cook as well and added that then she liked him more. He told her that she could either speak or eat, and she exclaimed that she would eat. She asked for more, but Rokoko stated that it was the last one and apparently there was not much fishing going on because a violent monster had appeared. Ishikawa stated that it was one of her underlings and asked to do something about it, and the Demon King reverted that she had told her subordinates to avoid humans for a while, but if it was a violent one at the sea and then it was more than likely that it was Leviathan. He questioned Leviathan, and she explained to him that it was a monster that nobody wants around them and mostly because he was so violent and keeps destroying stuff but for the sake of sushi, and she would put him in his place. Rokoko asked if she could, and Elizabeth agreed as she was 10 Demon King. Further, Rokoko told her that she was the representative of the Merchant Guild, and she officially submitted a subjugation request for Leviathan. They got to the port, and Rokoko stated that she wanted to use a boat from the Merchant Guild, but with the rumors going around, they didn't want to risk getting it destroyed, and she had no option but to borrow a hip from a rather unsavory person. Ishikawa asked what kind of a person he was. She indicated that it was him, Maxie. Takayama got closer to him while stating it had been a while, and Maxie stated that he could already see that was going to be profitable and asked him to look that there was the shop he got with her ideas and his efforts. HMS Infinite Potato Chips. Further, he told Rokoko to not forget their deal. 10% of profits from the Black Sharks would come to him and she agreed. Takayama found him quite the merchant, as always. They decided to go and sailed onto the ship, where Ishikawa stated that it was fast. Then he took the box and asked Nagano if he could use lightning magic, and she agreed. Elizabeth asked what he was going to do, and he explained that he was thinking about having some lightning-infused rounds ready for fighting Leviathan. She exclaimed that if it was flame-infused, she would have been able to make it, and that might not be very effective on the Leviathan. And Ishikawa called it so much for overwhelming strength. Elizabeth retorted on her that she didn't butt into mine and Takayama's conversation, and Ishikawa retorted that it was because she was not obnoxious. Nagano exclaimed that it looked like they were getting along might be, and Kagawa stated that a weird ship was coming towards them. They spotted Captain GG's pirate ship, and where GG screamed enemies and asked them to prepare the cannons and to starboard fire at will. They shot the cannons, loading the second volley, and after noticing mentioned that they were barely harmed by the attack and they weren't stopping as well, coming full speed at them. GG ordered them to turn around, and they reverted that they wouldn't make it and were commanded to brace for impact. Further, he ordered all the sailors to get ready for boarding. Elizabeth exclaimed that it looked like there were some non-humans here too, though, and added that she would help them out a bit. But he called her and she mentioned that she knew that she wouldn't kill them. She stepped in front of them, and the blast happened, and some of the sailors drowned into the water. Kagawa was amazed with her power and her strength. Just then, GG came and asked what he was doing, as they made him come here himself. GG plunged in front of Elizabeth and asked her to do it 1-on-1 against his godless Hun ballet. GG added that even a demon lord would be reduced to ashes, and she agreed high. To come at him, he plunged and was using godless gun, and she cast her lie, which led the blast, and GG with his teammate drowned in the water. They asked if he was okay, and GG exclaimed that it was a fierce bout, and added that they would retreat for that day but they would pay her back for that. After they left, Ishikawa called the Demon King awesome, and added that she got goosebumps to think that she would defeat Captain GG so hard. Elizabeth stated that she would be rewarded for that then, and the boss asked if it was anything he could. But she called Takayama, and DHE denied that there were no children for her, so she asked him to pay her head. He patted her head and asked if that was fine, and she screamed that Takayama's head pats were priceless. Further, she asked Ishikawa if she was jealous, and she called it so noisy. But they noticed instantly that something was weird, and comprehended that the pirate ship was broken and it was an attack from Leviathan. All the sailors were asking for help, and Takayama asked Elizabeth if she could distract Leviathan for a while, and she asked why. He explained to her that he didn't want the pirates to die before they could rescue them. Astounded, she stated that he was too kind as he tried to save an enemy that tried to kill her. She agreed that she would do something, and she plunged while leaving it to him. After that, sailors spotted a rescue boat and mentioned that they were safe, but noticed that Leviathan was coming that way. But the Demon King reverted the attack and asked them to go then. They thanked her and safely rescued a boat. They thanked Maxi for cooperating then, and Maxi told them that they needed to worry as he was sure the pirates would be willing to work for him for a reasonable wage. Takayama asked the boss if he wanted to check how many were there, and he agreed. Another sailor stated that he would do the call, and knew that Thomas didn't come that time. But the leader stated that they all were there, and she called it a miracle, while others screamed that there was one missing. Leviathan kept attacking her with flame, and she decided that she would finish that in one shot. She casted her Divine Annihilator, and was stunned as she noticed that there was someone on top of its head and wondered if it was GG. GG asked him to hit it while he held it back. She was stunned that he would hold it from behind, and that he was just not riding though, and explained that if she used it he would die too. He screamed that he was ready and he would give his life to his men, and she told Takayama that she couldn't fight because GG was on Leviathan's head. One of the GG members said that it might sound ungrateful, but he requested him to save GG as GG saved them from staying in the trash they were. Takayama exclaimed that it looked like he had got no option. Just then, others warned him that Leviathan was coming that way, and Leviathan exerted flame. Kagawa came with her shield while mentioning that it was her duty to protect. She used her ally guard to revert the flame, but the flame was so extensive that the guard broke, so suddenly Nagano cast her frost, and the flame converted into ice. Kagawa fell down, but Elizabeth came and held her while telling her to fight things of her own size. She thanked Elizabeth, and Nagano asked if she was okay. Demon King Elizabeth stepped towards Nagano and picked her up while asking her to cooperate with her, and they would nullify the next attack. Nagano exclaimed that even if she suddenly said that, Elizabeth motivated her to hold off herself and inquired if she wanted to protect them, and she was astounded. Then, Elizabeth warned her that was coming, and Nagano used her frost, and all the flames converted into ice from the other side, and he exclaimed that with the ice floating on the sea, he could reach Leviathan then. Ishikawa added that she had a skill just for a time like that, and she cast her haste, and there was energy flowing in his body. Takayama asked when she learns a skill like that, and she stated that Lily taught it to her after the contest. He plunged while mentioning it as a good skill, and he reached Leviathan's back and slid out GG to save him. He threw him in the water, and just then Takayama heard Leviathan's side, and found himself in front of Leviathan's mouth. Leviathan held him inside his mouth and drowned into the water, but inside it he stretched his mouth to save himself. But instantly Leviathan exerted flame which directly hit him. He was trying to save himself from the flame by using hands and contemplated that he didn't take any damage, but as well he couldn't breathe. And suddenly the attack stopped. He stopped that Elizabeth held Leviathan from behind in her demon form while Nagano was holding her tail. Instantly, he plunged to attack while pondering that by using haste skill and his abilities he could finish it one shot. Further, he swung and struck down Leviathan's forehead. In pain, Leviathan growled, but his powers were so high that he pushed everyone and died. The Demon King held Nagano and they were back. Takayama used the rope and reached onto the ship and stated that he was exhausted. He asked if Elizabeth couldn't have picked him up at least, and she apologized while stating that she was distracted by something quite unexpected. Takayama was perplexed as there was a girl lying on the boat full naked. GG asked them what they were looking at. GG took off his coat and covered her while stating that a maiden's body should only be seen by her lover. Elizabeth was frustrated at how he got to say something cool without doing anything useful, and Takayama asked her to not mind him as he was an idiot. He asked what was with that kid, and Elizabeth explained that she was Leviathan, and everyone there was astonished. Elizabeth added that it looked like she could change shape just like her. Just then, the girl opened her eyes and asked where it was and what was about her body. Elizabeth explained to her that she lost and she was stunned. She reminded that they were the ones, and Elizabeth smirked and asked how they should cook her. Afraid, she bowed in front of them requesting to forgive her and added that she would do anything. Her butts were shown, and Takayama was astounded and added that maybe they could overlook it as he would rather not beat up a girl. Elizabeth exclaimed that it wouldn't change anything though, as she would likely continue attacking ships once they were gone. As well, GG's team retorted that they lost a shop because of her, and they couldn't forgive her and asked GG to tell them. But GG kept looking at birds and asked them to forgive her. They further asked why, and GG explained that it was a man's duty to forgive the sins of women, and they stressed as GG was way too lenient on women. Takayama looked at the place and exclaimed that Leviathan wasn't there, and Ishikawa pointed her out, and she drowned into the water while explaining that they fell for it, and next time they would meet, she would surely send them all to hell. Elizabeth added that it looked like Takayama's weakness was his bleeding heart, and he told him to not worry as she thought something like that might happen. But Leviathan started drowning in the water and asked them to help and was saved by them. She was stressed about the drowning, and Elizabeth explained to her that while she was unconscious, she took the chance to seal off half of her power, meaning she couldn't swim unless they allowed her to, which means that from then she was her underling. Annoyed, Leviathan exclaimed that she would rather die from being a slave to a midget like that, and Elizabeth screamed that if she wanted to die, Takayama controlled her. GG exclaimed all is well that ends well. Maxie denied and mentioned that for saving him, he would have paid him back tenfold. GG retorted him to not be absurd as he was a pirate and he had no intention to work under anyone, and then Maxie asked for 1,000,000 Gorda for one soul. Further, GG exclaimed that a person's life couldn't put a price on that, and Maxie retorted on him why he was talking back to him after he saved that so-called priceless life and asked why don't they ungrateful bastards just work under him to pay it off. Annoyed, GG stated that even if he was correct he would rather live by his own rules and asked his team to go. But his team stated that in order to save him they signed a contract with that old man, so GG agreed that he would be sure to work with him to the bone. 2 weeks later, Seal stated that she caught a black shark, and Elizabeth called her name wrong as Cena, and she corrected that her name was Seal. Seal sighed and hoped that she would never see Elizabeth again. Then, she went in water to return and came back while telling Elizabeth that she promised that she would set her free once they caught them, and Elizabeth denied that she didn't say that. So she called her devil, and Elizabeth corrected it as a demon king. Then, Seal asked why the demon king was allied with humans, and Elizabeth explained that she wanted Takayama's children. Seal exclaimed that the guy looked like an idiot but he was strong. So, Elizabeth added that it doesn't look like he was interested in giving her children, and Seal explained that he was a man after all, and he would be more interested in a more homely woman compared to a demon lord, and asked really. And Seal agreed and stated that cooking, cleaning, and laundry, that a woman who could look after, she would be more attractive. Just then, Elizabeth plunged and stated that she was going to try it out then, and Seal screamed that she couldn't and asked her to not leave her. On the other hand, they were all thrilled that they got too many black sharks, and Takayama exclaimed that Seal did good work. But Rokoko asked him to put aside makes he sure was working the pirates to the bone. One of the pirates exclaimed that he wanted to die. Just then, Takayama explained that he couldn't see Gigi anywhere, and Rokoko explained that Guy was just pushing all his work to his subordinates. So he was fired after 2 days, and Takayama laughed. She added that there was something he wanted him to make so that they could transport the black sharks to other towns. Suddenly, Elizabeth came to him while asking what she should do to become a more homely woman, and he replied that he wouldn't even if she asked something like that out of nowhere, and asked her to talk about that later instead as he was working right then. Sadly, she was returning, but Elizabeth asked her to help with the cooking in her shop as cooking might turn her into a much more likely human woman. So she ran while stating that she would do it. She reached the shop while crossing all the men and asked Ishikawa to swap with her for cooking duty. Ishikawa asked why she was suddenly, and Elizabeth took a knife while explaining that she would be going to become a more homely woman, and it was to impress Takayama, and asked to call it bridal turning to become a better woman for Takayama. Ishikawa exclaimed that it was so admirable.